Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Better Call Sexton with me, your host, James Sexton. Remember to like, subscribe, do all those wonderful things. It helps the channel. On the docket today, Charlie Sheen breaking the internet with his shocking, raw, and absolutely fantastic documentary, Remote Husbands. It's not what you think. Sorry, ladies, you can't outsource that job yet. New York City passes a ban on phones in all public schools, but kids will be kids, and we take a look at the crazy alternatives they're coming up with. And an influencer mom goes absolutely viral for her unorthodox parenting techniques. Let's see if they're any good. And as always, we take a look at some of your submissions from SextonShow.com. Let's get after it.
Charlie Sheen, crazy
Sheen,
documentary.
Baby, Tiger Blood, winning.
So you saw the documentary, I assume.
Oh my
and everyone's
God, I
talking
couldn't
about
take
it.
my eyes off of it. I have to tell you, I was excited and it did not disappoint. Charlie Sheen, one of the most fascinating personalities in the history of modern media.
So he got very raw on camera, both in the documentary and also as a follow-up on Joe Rogan. I don't know if you saw his appearance.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So we got a quick clip here that I'm going to show you.
Let's hit it. Yeah.
I went through 2 divorces and had 4 children during that run of 8 years, you know, and so
that's crazy.
It's insane, yeah, and they both, you know, they fell apart for married reasons and whatever, but there wasn't time to heal the last one before the next one kicked off, but that's all on me. You know what I'm saying? That's all on me making those decisions. Yeah. That's one of the through lines in the book, is that it like really comes down to really being all about choices.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that makes the documentary so compelling is that Charlie Sheen is like Robert Downey Jr. in the sense that these are people who just absolutely immolated very publicly. And these are people that really flew too close to the sun. Like they had everything. I mean, you watch this documentary, Charlie Sheen, and he was incredibly handsome, incredibly successful at a very young age, from a dynasty of Hollywood, you know, just every possible opportunity. And he flamed out in the most public way, in the most humiliating ways humanly possible. And he lived to tell the tale. And there's a credibility that comes with that, because he's really able to look back in a very raw way and say, yeah, a lot of this was on me. A lot of this was my bad choices. A lot of this was my mistakes. And look, part of being human is everybody makes mistakes, but there's a lot to learn from someone like Robert Downey Jr. or Charlie Sheen. And that is, no matter how massive your flameouts, no matter how big your mistakes, there's something about taking ownership of those mistakes and referring to that past self that made those mistakes in a way that gives you some like cognitive distance from it. The ability to say like, yeah, that was me then. It doesn't define me. I'm not defined by my mistakes. I'm not defined by my greatest moment, and I'm not defined by my worst moment. I'm something of an amalgam, something of an average of all of my best and my worst characteristics, because all of us know, secretly or not so secretly, that we contain multitudes. We have in us the capability of wonderful good and compassion and empathy, and we have within us, all of us, some shades of narcissism and selfishness and ugliness within us. And so people like Charlie Sheen, they've kind of come through the fire, they burn their own life up, and they live to tell the tale, and they gain from it a certain kind of wisdom. You know, I was really moved by the fact that Denise Richards was in the program and painted a very unflattering picture of Charlie Sheen. But the Charlie Sheen she was talking about was the Charlie Sheen, not who's narrating this, right? But the Charlie Sheen who he was, the Charlie Sheen, and that chaos still lives inside this person, that all those negative things, the person who was capable of those atrocities, that person is still in there, and he's still living with the consequences of the choices that he made. But having someone like Denise Richards come into the story and say, look, there's a lot of darkness in this person. This person caused a lot of chaos for both of our lives. But I think everyone agrees that Charlie Sheen hurt a lot of people, but Charlie Sheen hurt Charlie Sheen most of all. And there's something very courageous about confronting that shadow self, confronting those dark parts of one's personality and saying, look, those parts of me, Mel Gibson refers to it as hugging the cactus. That you have to look at the parts of yourself that are ugly and unpleasant and shameful and find a way to love the you that contains those pieces. And if you can do that, then you really have the opportunity for self-reflection and for moving forward in more positive ways. I really felt like this documentary was something of a documentary of his redemption arc. And again, where does he go from here? It seems like he's mindful of the fact that he still has all of those chaotic elements in him and that he wouldn't put it past himself to get too complacent and forget that they're there because they could rear their ugly head up any minute. So it's a great documentary. It's really worth watching. Not just if you're a Charlie Sheen fan, which I can't really claim I was. I thought, Major League was great, and I thought Platoon was one of the best films probably ever made. Wall Street is a banger. But the truth is he's more compelling as a human being even than he is as an actor. And I think there was a lot to learn from it, not just about Hollywood and not just the car crash, but really about what it means to be human and the sides of all of us that need to learn how to hug the cactus. So absolutely worth watching. And the Joe Rogan interview was just another corollary to it that really carried forward that selfless, really honest self that I think is very compelling.
So from The Economist, the rise of the remote husband tagline, she goes out to work, he stays at home and logs on. People are noticing a staggering rise in situations where husband is the main breadwinner, but he's working from home, whether it's in tech, in finance. And so people are asking, in the long term, what is this going to do for divorce? Have you seen any of this? I know you work in finance a lot.
Yep.
What's going on here?
Yeah, look, there's been a massive cataclysmic shift, even pre-COVID, but COVID really just amplified it to some degree, where, the people are no longer as tethered to the workplace as they once were. There was a time, even 25 years ago when I first started practicing, where the majority of childcare responsibilities fell on women. The majority of breadwinning fell on men. Men got up, they left for work at 6 o'clock in the morning or earlier, and they got home at 6 or 7 p.m. So they really weren't available. They had to be tethered to an office, whether their job could have been done from home or not. A tremendous number of tasks that many of us do at work can be done from home or could be done from pretty much anywhere, especially the way we leverage technology these days. So I think this is a very real reality that isn't going anywhere. But what effect does that have? What are the second order effects of that in terms of how it affects our relationships and how it affects our perception of each other? Because just because someone's sitting at home does not mean they're not working. And it doesn't mean that they're not focused on work or accomplishing something. In fact, a person can be the breadwinner and working from home or working from the beach as long as they're on task and doing what needs to be done. So I think this shifts people's emotional states. I know when my own father retired, my mother, basically called me and said, look, you got to get this guy out of here. Like I said, for better or for worse, I didn't say for lunch. And having somebody who's just around all the time was absolutely unnerving for her. So this is what I think a lot of people used to encounter when retirement happened. But at that point, they were so solidified in their journey as a couple that they just sort of figured out a way to tolerate it. Now it's happening much earlier where people are just working from home. They have some flexible time where they might have to be in the office a few days a week, but the other days they can be home. And it creates this, tension between people of, okay, wait a minute, why do I have to go to an office and you get to be home? And if you're going to be home, can't you also take care of the kids and do these other additional things, which may not be possible to do because you actually are working remotely, meaning you are in fact working. You're tethered to your laptop, you're tethered to your devices, but ultimately you don't have to be in a physical office. But yeah, look, this is having a tremendous effect on people, their routines. It's created a lot of freedom. People can go to the gym in the middle of the day. People can do the things that they might want to do on different schedules as long as the work gets done. But it's also creating impacts on relationships. And again, I think the secret to this is going to be communication, communication, communication. You have to talk to your partner about what it is that you're actually doing, what impact it's having on your relationship, and what second order effects, what emotional strains is it creating between people? Because I can imagine if you're in a relationship with someone that has to get up every single day and go to the office and you get to stay home, and work from home, there could be some resentment and some tension built over the fact that this person's out all the time. And by the way, they get back from that job where they've had to interact with the population all day and you feel isolated. You've been home all day. So now you're excited for interaction. They're kind of sick of interaction. So it can create this kind of opposite effect that again is another second order effect that we have to think about. And there's no rule book for this, guys. It's not like anybody got like a warning in advance that this is what was going to happen to the workplace. But again, like anything, No plan survives first contact with the enemy. The truth is change is the only constant. We have to learn how to recognize change and adapt to change and communicate with each other about how to navigate it.
Now let's take a look at the future of the country, taking a bit of a trip to the past.
I'm a little afraid right now to look at the future of this country, but what specifically? Because if there was a time machine right now, I would not feel comfortable jumping 5 years ahead. I feel like I would get out of it and there would just be this dystopian wasteland happening. So,
well, let's see, because we have an article here from the Gothamist, which, by the way, great article source. I would recommend everyone check it out.
This is excellent.
Didn't make me pay while researching. Anyways, NYC students head back to the classroom but have to check their smartphones first.
Oh.
New York City recently passed in every single public school across all 5 boroughs an official ban on cell phones.
Oh, and the kids are spicy. They are spicy about it, man. You could take one of their limbs, but don't you take their access to TikTok. Don't you dare take their ability to text. The kids are not all right now. They are not okay with this.
With nearly 900,000 public school students in New York City alone.
So many kids.
New York's smartphone ban is officially live. People are saying that this is being done as sort of a remedy to the pandemic era. A lot of these kids in high school, they were kids during the pandemic. They're almost overly technified.
They are wired in. They are in it. They are deep in it.
But we have here as a follow-up, which people found so interesting, the Gothamist took this story, went to the streets, went to the students, and interviewed a series of students from Bronx Science, one of the biggest public schools.
Good school.
And we're seeing that the kids are turning towards a lower tech life. Polaroids, walkie-talkies, and decks of cards are being seen in the hallways. People communicating via pager,
leave
via
Leave it to
walkie-talkie.
Bronx Science kids, man. They're going to innovate. These are the future leaders of the world here. These are very bright kids. So
what are we thinking about? What do you think the ramifications of this? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? I mean, you're always talking about the future, talking about the youth. What are you thinking about this?
Yeah, look, I think youth always finds a way. I mean, it's kind of one of the coolest things about young people is, as a recovering former young person, I can tell you that you take the lemons that you get handed and you try to figure out a way to make lemonade and get laid out of it. That's part of what being young is you try to use whatever is around you to develop your sense of self, to figure out ways to connect with other people, ways to find romantic partners. So, kids found connection, had fun, drove each other crazy, made each other, excited before cell phones. They'll find a way to do it if you take their cell phones away. Young people will always find a way to innovate, connect to themselves, connect to each other, express themselves. It's one of the great, amazing, resilient things about young people is that they will always find a way to build those connections and to no matter how many times you try to cut the lines of transmission, young people will always find a way. They found it when there was a radio and they'd be huddled around it listening to music that they weren't supposed to listen to. They did it when there was television. They're staying up late to watch things that they weren't supposed to watch, or going to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show at midnight, with a gaggle of freaks, and their parents thought that they were sleeping over some friend's house being responsible. There were generations always found ways.
Sounds like a bit of a personal admission
That
there.
is absolutely, man. Listen, 99% of the best times I had as a teenager, my parents thought I was at the library or sleeping over my friend Greg's house. And the truth is, I was at neither of those places. I was at Rocky Horror. I was out hanging out at a gas station, smoking cigarettes and trying to find girls to talk to. Some of the best things, because young people find a way. They find a way to connect to each other. Look, I think that we've lived in a digital world for a while, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, that technology offers us improved means to an unimproved end. I think at the end of the day, what we really want more than anything in the world is connection to other people. And these devices that were intended to connect us to other people have very much disconnected us from each other in really real and tangible ways. So I feel like it's actually doing a service to young people to give them A, something to rebel against, B, something to innovate against, and C, to try to push down their ability to connect to each other. Because guess what? It's like pushing a balloon underwater. It's just going to pop up some other way. Young people will not be denied in their ability to share their voice, share their creativity, and find connection to each other, because that's the nature of youth. Youth is all about connection and finding your voice and expressing yourself. So I'm all for anything that creates the hurdles that these young people are going to jump right over. And I'm proud of New York City for actually making the ban, because I think it makes makes sense. And I think some of the research that people like Jonathan Haidt are doing really supports the fact that we need to unplug young people a little bit more. But I'm also equally proud of young people who are finding ways around it and finding ways to still maintain connection and cheat the codes that are there. Look, you got to create rules, if nothing else, so that young people can find a way to break them, because there's nothing more enjoyable when you're a young person than figuring out a way to smartly break the rules. So I'm all for this kind of a thing, and I'm all for the youth response to it.
So in your experience, now you were at one point, like you said, recovering young person. I guess I am too. You were a parent of 2 teenage boys at one point.
Yeah.
What is that experience like? Were we the type to do that? Were we sneaking around?
Where could we start? I mean, look, I think all parents are supposed to pretend we don't know that you're sneaking around. I think that's part of like the unspoken code between parents and their children, is that we're supposed to believe that you're the only young people in history that aren't up to some shenanigans that we're not supposed to know about. Just like, but again, our job is to try to be vigilant. What I will say is you and your brother did an excellent job of hiding your shenanigans most of the time. I think I busted you a few times, but a lot of the transgressions were within the realm of acceptable parameters. I knew the kind of stuff I got up to when I was that age, and it couldn't possibly have been worse than that, or at least it was comparable. So, I think part of parenting is a certain suspension of disbelief, like kind of we're all going to pretend that we don't know what's going on behind the closed door. But part of being an adult and part of being a parent is creating hurdles for your kids to find a way to tack around. And I'd like to think that you give your kids enough something to believe in, that they have something to reject and rebel against when they reach those years where that's really what your core foundations are, is wanting to rebel and react and create your own narrative. So I'd like to think I found the balance with you guys. I know that I tried to parent in a slightly different way than my parents did, which was to really turn a blind eye and create such rigid rules that I just had nothing but things to rebel against. But, when you have a parent who's like when you're an infant playing Cypress Hill with the bass turned up to try to get you to go back to sleep, it's pretty hard to find things to rebel against. But, to your credit, you and your brother did what young people do, which is you found ways to rebel. You found ways to express yourself. You found ways to piss us off. And then, there's rupture and repair in parent-child relationships. And I think that that's good lessons for when you become a parent yourself. And when you're in an intimate relationship with someone, you learn that, hey, this person's going to upset you sometimes. I remember your brother sitting across from me at the kitchen table when he was like 13 or 14, just scowling at me because I told him he wasn't allowed to do some really stupid idea he had about like going to a festival concert or something with his friends. And I remember saying to him, buddy, you're reaching an age where if you don't occasionally hate me, I'm doing a really bad job as a father. So I think it's really important as a parent to have the same things you need as a divorce lawyer, which is a very defined sense of self, so that you're not afraid to like express an authentic version of what you think is appropriate in the role that you're in as a parent or as a lawyer. And I think that as much as sometimes your clients or your kids might not want to hear what's coming out of your mouth, there's a part of them that sees that it's authentic and real and it's for their intended benefit. Again, even if they disregard your advice, even if they reject your perspective and they do something different and they burn their hands on the fire that you were trying to prevent them from burning, or they have some phenomenal experience that they wouldn't have had if they followed your rules. I think that's part of the dance of youth and adults that has been going on forever, and I hope will continue to go on for many, many, many years.
So everyone is talking about Jessica Roderick.
I'm not. I wasn't talking about her until now when you just brought it up. I had gone my whole day, my whole week, my whole life, never once said the words Jessica Roderick. It had never come out of my mouth until just now. So not everyone is talking about her.
Well, I think you'll have a big opinion on this. So this video goes viral, her talking about her parenting strategy for her 14-year-old and 12-year-old. Let's take
Tough
a
ages,
look.
by the way. 14 and 12, before I even watch this, I'm just going to say, you're going to meet a lot of people in your life. You're going to meet old people, young people, gay people, straight people, black people, white people. You will never in your whole life meet somebody who says the best years of my life were middle school. It'll never happen. You just never meet anybody. The happiest person in middle school is fucking miserable. You'll meet people that say, oh, high school was the best years of my life. They're usually pumping your gas. You'll meet a lot of people that say college was the best years of your life. You will never meet anybody who says middle school was the best years of their life. It's really to be tolerated, and everything about it is just miserable. So I give her credit already by the fact that she's raising a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old, but let's see how she's going about it.
Controversial things that I make my kids pay for. I just want to start by saying I actually pay my kids a weekly allowance, and they get money from being in my videos on social media. So they do get quite a bit of money. The first thing is if they want a sweet treat. So if I say,
by the way, her voice is like nails it. And the thing that she's doing with the makeup, stop. What do you do? Put on your makeup and then come in front of the camera and talk like a normal human being. Like, I don't come on the camera here and start tying my tie and like, you know, like just get your shit together. Take your shit, get it together, get it all the way together, and then hit record on the camera. Is it that hard? It's not that hard. Sorry.
Hey, let's go out for ice cream. I'm paying for the ice cream. Like, my daughter wants to go to like Crumble Cookie sometimes. So if they want the treat and it's not something that we're doing together as a family, then they are the ones that are paying for it. And the second is DoorDash. So obviously if we're doing like dinner for DoorDash, like together as a family, then I'm going to be the one paying for it. If they're just like craving something and they want their own DoorDash, they're going to be the ones that are paying for it. My daughter does this especially. She just is like in the mood for something specific and she just like orders herself DoorDash. My daughter has even like DoorDash herself like a jar of pickles. My kids also place a lot of Amazon orders. Like, I know I have my own Amazon wish list, but they do too. And if they want something off of their Amazon wish list, most of the time they're going to be buying it for themselves.
I think I'm dumber for having watched that. And I also, I'm afraid I'm going to start talking like this.
Well, some people are saying, you know, half the people are saying, well, this is good. She's teaching her kids financial responsibility. The other half are saying, why are these kids living like LA influencers? Why is a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old?
Because she's corralled them into the role of influencers. Like, she's pimping out her children on social media. Like, this whole cast of characters, this whole, you know, and when my children appear in my videos, they get money for that. Like, guys, like, you're literally pimping your children out. Like, it's such a, your kids are 12 and 14. You're making them a featured content on your channel. I get it. You certainly have the right to do that. I mean, people have the right to exploit their children in any fashion that they want to. But to then like get up and tell people like, oh, well, your kids, when they get money from their careers as social media influencers on your channel, here's what you should do in terms of how you should allocate those funds. Like, I'm going to take a hard pass on taking that parenting advice. What is the core message of this? What I think she just said, it was just hard to tell, is that she has her children pay for non-necessities from funds that they've earned themselves. I mean, that was the takeaway, right? Like, I spent like, what was that, a minute and a half of my life that I'll never get back for her to basically say, hey, you know, if I'm ordering dinner for the family, I pay for it instead of cooking. And if the kids want to get something for themselves, a sweet treat, then they'll buy themselves it. How is this any different than, like, I remember when I was a kid and I took, like, I'd shovel driveways or do like little things to make a couple of bucks. I would be able to use that money to buy comic books or something like that. My mom wouldn't say to me like, okay, you need to go buy milk for the house with that money, which, by the way, there's a school of thought that would say that might not have been a bad thing to learn that you have to contribute to the economy of the household. But it's not that radical of a notion to suggest that like silly things that kids want but don't need, they can pay for from their money that they've made in some fashion. Ideally not as, you know, co-influencers on your channel and getting your AdSense account. It's more that they're, you know, that they're doing odd jobs or they're babysitting or they're, you know, shoveling driveways, like doing things that young kids can do to raise a couple of bucks. Now, again, I mean, I don't think there's anything radical about that notion. I think that this is another repackaging and presentation of something very banal and general and that's been going on forever and ever, and just giving it like a different name or a different spin and trying to create it like it was something new. This is not an innovation. This is just, I don't know, a makeup video with a nasal twang disguised as wisdom. I have no idea what that was. I feel like my brain hurts after that one. Remember, your viewer submissions should come to us at sextonshow.com. We read all of them. I shouldn't say we. I don't read all of them. My people read all of them, and then they curate the ones that are the most interesting or hilarious or cringe, and they forward them to me, and we decide which ones are going to be on here. All right. This one comes from a viewer, Esther Perel, incredible woman. She's great. I actually appeared on a panel with her with Lifehacker some years ago. You can find it online. Has said that women have affairs to end a marriage. Men have affairs to save a marriage. Any thoughts on that, James J. Sexton? I like that they used my formal name. Yeah, look, I think, first of all, I'm not going to argue with Esther Perel about what is the nature of male and female coupling. I think she is a genius in that category, and she's written some amazing books, which are all worth reading. But I think there's some credibility to that. I've spent a lot of time with the cheater and the cheated on. I've represented, thousands of people that have dealt with some aspect of infidelity, whether it's the presenting problem that brought them into my office or whether it's just a side effect of it, of the core problems in the relationship. But yeah, look, I do think a lot of women, they have affairs that are like an exit to the marriage. They're the way that they prove to themselves that, yeah, this is actually over. And the fact that I was able to cross this line is the thing that demonstrates to me that this relationship is over. Or they create a soft place to land. They start a new relationship. They say a lot of men have affairs to save the marriage. I think that's a very misplaced logic, but I understand where it's coming from, which is men don't want to end their marriage, but they want to have their needs met. There's a chapter in my book called Go Without or Go Elsewhere, which if you're not able to express your needs to your partner, if you're not able to identify your needs for yourself and then express them to your partner, you kind of have two options: go without the thing you want or go elsewhere, neither of which is a very palatable option. So I think a lot of men take the forbidden fruit of an affair because they're thinking that they're saving their marriage. They think they're helping their marriage by keeping it together and not divorcing, when in fact what they're really doing is creating lasting damage to themselves, to the relationship at its core level, and potentially to this other person who's their partner in the affair, who may also be in a relationship themselves or may have aspirations to them, having an ongoing relationship with them, when in fact to them it's really just a bomb. It's a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. So I certainly think that it's an understandable point of view, if not completely misplaced in terms of the logic in reality. But yeah, it comports with my experience to some degree, but I'm not going to argue with Esther Perel when it comes to the subject of infidelity. She is a very, very bright woman, scholar, and writer on that topic. All right, guys, it's time for Sexton-ism. For those of you that are new to the show, this is a list of things that I say so frequently, so many times a week to clients that my staff really think they should be condensed into some kind of a book. But until that book happens, you get this segment. So a Sexton-ism I've been saying a lot lately is the problem with the race to the bottom is you might win. So there really is sometimes in our society and in a family or in a divorce or in any kind of adversarial proceeding, there is a tendency to want to go low and low and lower, to fight fire with fire. When someone is acting towards you in an immoral way or a reprehensible way, you want to they come with the bullets, you want to be there with the bombs. But the problem with the race to the bottom is you might win. And so, as Nietzsche said, whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process they don't become a monster. And when you gaze into the abyss also gazes into you. So when you're engaging in conflict with another person, when you're serving some lower part of your nature, remind yourself and try to keep present that the problem with the race to the bottom is even if you win, you might win. And that's not what you want. We want to find a way to elevate the highest and noblest traits in each of us. We want to find a way when they go low that we go high. We do not want to turn into the monsters that we're fighting. So again, remind yourself the problem with the race to the bottom is you might win. Hey, gang, that's going to do it for this episode of Better Call Sexton. We're adjourned. Thank you so much for joining us again. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all those wonderful things that help the channel. We will continue to give you great content if you can just give us that like. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you real soon. Court is adjourned.